Manchmal ist es ja schwer, so einen Sprung zu kriegen. Und doch hat Tobias in dem, was er ja eben erzählt hat, schon von einer Person erzählt, die den nächsten Vortrag halten wird. Und diese Person, nämlich Haim Omer, hat heute Geburtstag. Und jetzt bin ich gespannt, ob er schon zugeschaltet ist, weil wir möchten Sie und euch einladen, Happy Birthday zu singen. Ja? Das kriegen wir, glaube ich, spontan hin. Meine Stimme ist noch da, insofern kriegen wir es rein. Und die gut singen können, bitte ein bisschen lauter singen.
Hast du denn schon einen schönen Ton? Warte mal, bis er kommt.
Ja.
Achso.
Ist er schon da in der Leitung? Da ist er. Hallo Haim.
Hallo.
Ganz herzlichen Glückwunsch zu deinem Geburtstag.
Thank you. Let's speak in English. I will probably be as deaf in English as in any other language, but maybe not.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you. We sing a song for
thank
you today.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Haim. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Und jetzt noch ein bisschen, ne? Wolltest du kurz was zu Haim sagen? Einmal einmoderieren?
Also ich
74.
moderiere jetzt, lieber Haim, ich moderiere dich an. Ich vermute, dass dein Name allen bekannt sein wird und dass gar nicht so furchtbar viel anzumoderieren ist. Ich mache einfach die Bühne frei und übergebe sie an dich, lieber Haim.
Ich glaube, das ist so, dass er den Vortrag abspielen will. Haim, we will play your lecture from here, from the center.
Yeah.
Yeah? And we start now, in this moment?
Okay.
Okay. So we do.
So go on, start the lecture, but I'm not connected to the lecture. I'm not hearing from the lecture.
I hear.
Ah, you're hearing? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay.
So we start here, and you are staying until the end, I think.
With Professor Anat Bronstein-Klomek for the prevention of youth suicide. We have recently finished writing a book that is still in the process of being translated into English and later into German, Anchored to Life, NVR, and the Prevention of Teen Suicide. In the course of writing this book, we had a lot of context, a lot of experience in working together with therapists from different orientations, with organizations, with voluntary groups of people who work for the prevention of suicide, and of course, with parents, supporters, and schools. And I would say that one of the major important lessons that we had from all of these contexts is that all of those circles, people in all of those circles, are very eager to listen to and to get the support of the messages and of the tools of NVR. Even therapists who are very devoted to their own orientation, when it comes to the issue of suicide, their willingness to cooperate grows enormously. We have found a listening ear, a readiness, a wish, an eagerness to cooperate also with individual therapies, with psychodynamic individual therapies, with CBT therapies that otherwise would be, in other cases, not cases of suicide, would be much more, let's say, jealous of their own approach. This doesn't happen in the case of suicide. So when we talk about suicide prevention, we can talk about four circles. The youth, whose constitutes the suicide threat, the parents, the organic supporters, by that we mean family, not only the nuclear family, but also the extended family, grandparents, grandmothers, uncles, aunts, cousins, of course, brothers, sisters. And we talk also about the broader circle of external supporters, which is school, all kinds of community organizations, therapists, or other professional or volunteer factors. In this lecture, I'll be talking about the contributions of NVR mainly to the circle of the parents and the organic supporters. You know, we don't work directly with the youth, but all of our interventions can create messages, contacts, and interactions with the youth so that NVR can have messages also for the individual therapist that is working with the youth. And what we saw is that this kind of messages are very eagerly accepted and adopted. So always we'll be working with the circles and impinging on the youth and trying to reduce the risk of suicide with the youth. How did we get to implementing NVR with suicidal youth? Okay, as you all know, NVR developed, first of all, for highly aggressive, violent, impulsive youth. It was only little by little that we started implementing NVR also to anxiety disorders, to depressive disorders, to obsessive compulsive disorders. It took a while. And the major change, the major shift, which also proved to be the key element in the implementation of NVR and suicide prevention, was the development of our concept of the parental anchoring function. Okay, the anchoring function is the link between our model of authority and attachment theory. Okay, by means of the anchoring function, we help parents to give the child a sense that he is bonded, attached, that he or she belongs. We give the parents the means of helping stabilize the child, and we give the parents the means to give the child a sense of broader connection through the parents, first of all, but through the support. And why is this all so relevant for suicide? I'd like to remind you, those of you that don't know about it, that the first theory in the social sciences about suicide was also the theory that founded sociology. This was Durkheim's theory of anomie. The social science of sociology was founded by a book called Suicide by Emil Durkheim, in which he coined the concept of anomie. What is anomie? Anomie is a loosening of the structure, the rules, the commitments, and the bonds in a society, the connectedness, okay, the mutual commitment in a society. And Durkheim argued and showed data to this effect from many societies that the more a society suffers from anomie, the higher the rate of suicide. This was in the end of the 19th century. Ever since then, although, let's say, the empirical data that Durkheim brought up have been criticized, new studies have only reinforced this connection. So that if we had a plan to counter suicide, we should be countering anomie, this loosening, okay, this disintegration of social structure, rules, commitment, belongingness. And anomie happens not only in the society at large. Anomie happens also in a micro level, at the level of the family, of the immediate support group, Also there, we can see that sense of disintegration, of loosening, of fragmentation, affecting deeply. And kids in high risk of suicide are risks who experience in their immediate surroundings a growing sense of anomie. So the anchoring function is actually the antidote, okay, perhaps the best antidote that we may have against the anomie. Why? When parents enhance their anchoring function, learn to function as an anchor for their child, they do that by the means of the new authority, by the means of NVR. When they do, they increase the sense of connection and belongingness. Okay, the anchor connects, okay, but it is not only connection, it is also belongingness. Through the support system, okay, the symbol of the anchor is very apt because it has these three spikes. It means the parents act not only through themselves, but also through their connections to their support system. The support system gives the child what we might say an invitation to belong. We care for you. We are here. We are available. We want to help. You're important to us. So that by these means, we are strengthening the sense of connection and belongingness, not only with the parents, but also with other people and their immediate surroundings. Then, by the means of NVR, New Authority Anchoring Function, the parents, with the help of their supporters, increase stability and structure. Stability in themselves, you know that NVR helps to stabilize the child against his own impulses by stabilizing, first of all, the parent, and then they stabilize the interaction. Anchor. Anchor is a stabilizing element. And structure. Okay, you create the anchor of structure. Why is structure anchoring? Because it is a clear base. Okay, when you have this clear base, you remember anomie is lack of clarity in the rules, lack of mutual commitment, lack of clarity in moral principles, in directions. So anchoring functions create that kind of structure. We know that one of the functions of the new authority is to create structure. Then, by NVR, okay, new authority, in any and every intervention of NVR and the new authority, we are actually doing not only resistance, NVR, nonviolent resistance, but we are also giving protection and we're also giving support to the parents and to the child. This trial, resistance, protection, support, is conveyed by every single intervention in NVR. So now let's see, again, we'll look at different sides, different aspects of NVR, the anchoring function, and we'll see what we have to add. What is our contribution to suicide prevention? Why all of these people that we got in contact with, okay, professionals, volunteers, parents, supporters, why they thought that what we were saying was important, different, new, helpful. Okay, the first element that I would say is almost unique to NVR is that we address two kinds, let's say, of suicidal clinical pictures, phenotypes. We all know that many times, okay, the suicidal ideation, suicidal wish, suicidal impulse develops, and kids who are depressed, who are withdrawn, who have no life energies left, who are despaired. But we also know that our suicidal impulses and many times threats and acts, although in highly impulsive and aggressive kids, adolescents, who threaten suicide in the middle of a fight, who get crazy and they act out their suicidal wishes. Sometimes, okay, as manifestations are thought of as demonstrative. It's only no, that's not true. That's not true. There are no purely demonstrative threats. Every threat has a kernel of real suicide danger, real suicide risk. So now NVR, I think, is the only approach that addresses both of these phenotypes. Okay, most of the approaches, okay, interpersonal therapy of depression, CBT, okay, they'll address particularly the depressive side of suicide by giving support, by improving the relationship. We do more. Okay, we address that when we address also those aggressive and impulsive elements that are also common to violence. Okay, there is one approach, DBT, dialectic behavior therapy, that also addresses impulsive and aggressive in different ways, but that can connect to NVR very good, well, and very easily. So we would say between these two phenotypes, there is a common ground, a common denominator, the existence of a real suicidal kernel, always when, either when it manifests in the depressive variety or when it manifests in aggressive impulsive variety. Then in both those varieties, we're talking about the common denominator. Actually, they are a continuum. These two varieties are not two completely clinical conditions. They are rather, I would say, two phenotypes of a similar condition, of a continuous condition. In both of them, aggressive and depressive suicide forms, there's always an element of destructiveness. Why in the depressive suicide and the withdrawn kind, there's also this element of destructiveness? Because in order to take the plunge, okay, to commit suicide, okay, the youth needs that anger of despair. Otherwise, okay, without this energy of the anger of despair, he cannot cross the boundary between him, cannot jump into the abyss. Okay, so this element of destructiveness is also a common element in this continuous picture of suicide. Then in both kinds, aggressive and depressive suicide, there is a process of progressive disconnection. Okay? The youth disconnects himself gradually more and more for any potential sources of support, becomes more and more isolated. He encloses himself within a bubble in both kinds. Okay, in the end, it is like this. Not only the youth, there is a progressive isolation also of the parents, in both because of shame, because of despair, because they can't get out of the house, so they become more and more isolated, both in aggressive suicide and in depressive suicide. And in both varieties, the parental reactions can become highly problematic. They can actually add to the danger of suicide. And those are quite typical. Okay, many parents react either by freezing, okay, and freezing, totally becoming paralyzed, increases the danger of suicide because it leaves the youth alone in his or her despair. Or parents panic, react in a panic, and they start screaming or they start doing extreme things, and this feeds the process of escalation. We know that physiological and psychological arousal increases escalation. By increasing escalation, we are increasing the danger of suicide. Many times, parents become aggressive. They try confronting the youth or screaming at the youth in a very aggressive manner. Okay, how can you do this to us? And so on. And this kind of aggressiveness, parental aggressiveness, suicide baiting. You want to jump? Jump. The parent that comes to us and said, he was close to the window, and I thought, you want to jump? Jump. Okay, well, they didn't. This was not a good reaction at all. On the contrary, we know that it only increases the escalation that maybe not in this occasion, but in another occasion, okay, increase the risk of suicide. All of these parental reactions, typical parental reactions to suicide, are common to both conditions. So we can see very clearly that this continuum, this common denominator, which is addressed by NVR, shows that actually there are not two clinical conditions. Suicide, okay, is one basic condition with different phenotypes, with different kind of manifestations, so that we can deal with both of the conditions at once. Now, what are the advantages of NVR in the work with parents? Why do we think, and we have seen, that NVR is better able to engage the parents and to help the parents modify their behavior in a direction of suicide prevention? Okay, first of all, NVR addresses not only the child's suffering, but also the parent suffering. In cases of suicide risk, suicide threat, the parents are suffering enormously. They're under enormous stress. So the parents are not only tools for helping their child, they're also clients in themselves. They deserve help with their suffering. And the help they'll get for their own suffering will be help that will be of significance also to reduce the child's suffering or suicidal tendency. So by addressing the parent's suffering, by talking, saying, look, you are in an impossible condition. You are in an impossible situation. We want to get you out there. You are with your back against the wall. When parents are with their back against the wall, they cannot deal well with the situation. We'll help you get out of the back against the wall. We say, this is so terrible, so overwhelming that you're paralyzed. That's how parents react. They become paralyzed. We'll help you get out of the paralysis. So parents listen to this, and the level of engagement rises. We know from our studies that the dropout level rates in NVR treatments are the lowest in the literature. We think this is even more pronounced in the case of the parents of suicidal youth. Okay. Now, another reason we can help parents, we can engage the parents of suicidal youth, is that we can address directly the suicidal interaction. Not only the problems in the child's mind, like in an individual therapy, but the actual suicidal interaction between parents and child, which is crucial. Okay, the discussion or the lack of reaction or the threats, okay, this creates an interaction that in many cases, in most of the cases, tend to increase suicide risk. We can show to the parents that we have means to diffuse the risk factors of this interaction, and this is highly engaging. Okay, parents see that we are addressing what is happening there day to day. We don't say, okay, you have to give therapy to your child and then little by little. No, we have very clear steps by which the talks, the interaction or the lack of talks between parents and child is modified. So here we have a lever to getting not only the parents' interest and attention, but also in getting the parents to act. Then a major contribution and unique to NVR in dealing with the suicide risk is that NVR creates support for the parents. We give the parents broad shoulders. We create a network of support. We help the parents contact supporters, not only from the extended family, of course, but also among friends or in the community. Okay, so the parents get support. They get a broader base. They become more able to function as an anchor for the child. But the support, and the parents see that very clearly, the support that they get constitutes also an invitation to belong for the child. That's how the supporters function. They help the parents and offer the child what we call an invitation to belong. We care, we are together in this, you're important for us. We can help you in this, you can come with us. Okay, so the support is for the parents and for the child. And it's extremely, extremely meaningful for parents and attractive for parents. Okay, if we're only saying, okay, we'll be supporting you, okay, that would not be enough. But we say we'll be supporting you, and through the support we offer in you, we'll be increasing this invitation to belong for the child. That is highly meaningful for all parents. Then NVR helps engage the parents of suicidal children because of its clear sense of direction. We know that parents are thirsty for a sense of direction, and NVR gives them a series, a broad palette of things that they can do. That's the same thing that we witness why NVR is so relevant for different kinds of therapies, or for other people who are engaged with suicidal youth, because suicides creates very often a sense of helplessness, despair, lack of direction, confusing. We come and we have a very clear sense of direction. There are very clear things that they can do. And one of the things that you know is the announcement. We help parents create an announcement. And the very act of creating the announcement engages the parents and brings them already to be more active in a positive direction. Let's have a look at a typical announcement for a case of suicide, and you see how the different elements of NVR begin to manifest themselves. Dear Miriam, we have decided that we'll do all we can to protect you and our family against the danger of suicide and to support you through this difficult time. We know that you are suffering terribly, and we'll do all we can to be at your side. We'll fight for your life. You know this sentence, this phrase, we'll fight for your life. It actually encapsulates, the double message, resistance and support. We'll resist and support you together. We'll fight for your life. It's fighting. We have to engage the parents for a fight. Sometimes it's unpleasant. You have to do unpleasant things that we shall see. But they're fight for the child's life. We won't stay distance. On the contrary, we'll stay as close to you as possible, increasing the presence. We won't keep our difficult secret anymore. This is crucial in the case of suicide. Absolutely. On the contrary, we'll get help from people who are willing to help you and us, helping you and us, support you. Remember, for us and for you. We know that getting help is our supreme duty. Life and death are not private things. How dare you talk to other people? No, life and death are no private things. We will support you in any positive plan, step, or direction. Any possibility that gives hope will be important for us. We know that we'll endure a difficult time, but we'll do this together. Your loving parents. As you can see, this is a message that already has, in kernel, many of the elements of the program that we will begin to unfold. Now we come to the supporters. I'm talking now about the organic supporters and the extended family, grandmas, grandpas, uncles, aunts, friends of the family, friends of the youth. Sometimes we get also external supporters, professional support. Now we'll be talking about the importance, the contribution. This is a unique contribution of NVR in the case of suicide, because we know how to engage supporters. We know how to convince parents to involve supporters. We know how to encourage, but we know how to deal with all of the arguments, the caveats that parents sometimes have against the involvement of supporters. So we do that very quickly. It is always a surprise for therapists. For instance, we start talking with therapists that are working with the child, how we involve not only the parents and other supporters. And they listen very eagerly because it makes sense. It's quite clear, that supporters may help. We know this from research also. Research, big research on suicide, not our research in the kind, has demonstrated that when the child is willing to name, for supporters, a child who has made a suicide attempt, a serious suicide attempt, then the risk of recidivism is much lower, significant lower. So we get the supporters, always get the supporters. We have ways to encouraging the child to name supporters. We have developed that. Okay, we have described them in detail in our book. We can help therapists ask for these names. Okay, how the child can give the names of potential supporters. Okay, so what is the role of supporters? Why are supporters, okay, so crucial in the case of suicide prevention? For a series of reasons. And all of those reasons and all of this engagement of supporters is a unique contribution of NVR. First of all, supporters reduce escalation between parents and child, sometimes between parents and teachers. Okay, we know how to do it. Okay, we have shown that this is the case. They reduce clashes, reduce escalation. Supporters also help to stop blackmail and inappropriate services. You know, escalation is of two kinds. There's the symmetric escalation, okay, screaming, okay, ordering and claiming, and there is also the complementary escalation, okay, child behaves in a very threatening way, and the parents back away, give in, and provide the child with inappropriate services, like, for instance, complete access to computers day and night, or being able to lock themselves in their rooms. These are services. Now, supporters help to stop blackmail and inappropriate services. We have shown this in many, many NVR interventions. Supporters confer legitimacy to the parents' acts. Okay, the parents are reducing, okay, the child's privacy. Okay, actually, in case of suicide risk, the child is losing his right of total privacy. Not in all areas, okay, but in enclosing himself. Of course, okay, supporters come to the child and says, what do you want? Your parents cannot simply give up on you. They simply cannot relinquish you. They cannot abandon you, neither can we. Okay, so they're legitimizing, okay, the parents going open, which is crucial. Then supporters, they're very, very specific and practical measures that only with supporters can be carried out. One of them is the Suicide Watch. The Suicide Watch is a group of supporters that stay with the child or in the house, sometimes in the room, but sometimes in the house, but in the presence and vicinity to the child, sometimes 24 hours a day, not for long, for a week or two. And then the Suicide Watch can become little by little more presence by telephone calls, by visits, and that. But okay, in the beginning, in an acute situation, we can create a Suicide Watch. The Suicide Watch is not a complete dam against suicide. No, it is a network of protection. It is a safety net because it protects, it resists. Okay, when there is the Suicide Watch, they are in the home. Okay, they are resisting, and they also support. They're coming to the child, they're eating together with him, they're sitting with him, they're talking to him, they're doing things, they're playing chess with him, whatever. Then supporters are very often, actually usually, in a better position than parents to propose possible solutions. Many times, because of the escalation, because of the suicidal crisis, or the factors that led to this suicidal crisis, solutions that are offered by the parents are immediately refused by the child. We know this kind of interaction, but supporters are not in that condition. They can propose what kind of solutions? Any kind of activity, any kind of positive activity is a partial solution, because it reconnects the child to life. It's not only a total solution to the problem that led to suicide, but is involving the child in any kind of positive activities. And supporters involve the child in activities. They take the child out. They sometimes take the child to their home for a weekend. We have cases where an adolescent stays in a grandma's or grandpa's house until the suicide crisis is over for a longer stretch of time, or we have many, many cases in which the supporters, 2 or 3 supporters, take the suicidal child in a long, long car drive. They go to places, it can take a whole day, sometimes the whole night, the whole critical night of suicide. Okay, supporters are taking the suicidal child in their car, and this is an important kind of support, a crucial kind of support. And then there is a special intervention that we have devised, which is can only with supporters we can do it. It is a kind of a ritual. It's our major central ritual in the case of suicide. Why do I call it a ritual? Because it was inspired by Chloe Madane's ritual for cases of sexual abuse. Okay, we think this is a major contribution in the history of family therapy, systemic psychotherapy. And we have developed our own variety. We call it the supplicants. Supplicants are supporters, 2 or 3. We talk to the parents and we ask the parents, who are 2 or 3 people who are the most important people for their child? Many times, not in the present, sometimes in the past. There can be a grandpa that was very important until 1 or 2 years ago. Okay, and then his importance was reduced in the life of the child. So we get many times, okay, the most important person for the child is a brother or sister, a sibling, sometimes younger, sometimes 12 years old. They can be and should be involved in our opinion. We've done it many times in this ritual. So we clear this. And then we invite them. We do it with a sense of urgency, particularly in acute cases. Sometimes we get the meeting with the supplicants in the very same day, sometimes in the next day. So they come together with the parents through a meeting. Okay, 2 or 3 supplicants, grandma, younger sister, and the parents, and we have a meeting in which we help the parents to explain the situation, to make it clear, to tell what is happening. We help them to do it in a positive way. Okay, taking care also to protect the supplicants, but being clear to them. A younger child, 12 years old, 11 years old, can you talk to them about the fact that their 16-year or 17-year-old brother or sister, okay, has tried or wants to commit suicide? Yes, we can do it, because this young child has already witnessed all kinds of very, very crazy things around him in the family, and he doesn't know what is happening. So we're creating clarity, and we're also giving this child support and the possibility to do something that is also in the interest of the brother and sister, also in his or her own interest. We give him support in doing that. Okay, therapists sometimes tell, he's too young. What happens if the other one will commit suicide? Then he'll have guilty feelings for his whole life. We think this objection is not valid. We think it is not valid. And what if he didn't intervene? If he didn't know, he wouldn't feel, wouldn't that be awful for him? Yes, of course. So now he's doing something to try to help his brother and sister, and their intervention is many times the most crucial step. So we do this also with younger children, 10, 11 years old, we've done it. Also with suicidal parents, we've done it, and also with suicidal siblings, we've done it. Okay, so we had this meeting, this clarifying the situation, explain, and then we instruct them what to do. It's very simple. What to do in the end, at the end, is very simple. They're asked to go into the child's room. Sometimes they go to visit the child in the hospital, and the rite of the supplicants takes place in the hospital many times after a suicide attempt, and many times at home. So they enter the presence of the child without the parents, 2 or 3, and they tell him, very simple, we know what happened. You know what you were thinking of doing. You know about the suicidal risk. First of all, there is a sense of shock many times, but they say, we know that. And I want to beg you not to do this. It would be terrible. It would be awful. it will destroy not only your life, but also my life, also our life. Please don't do it. I'll stay with you. I'll do whatever is needed. I'll help you in whichever way I can, but please don't do it. Okay, many times, what do we see? We have done this many, many times. Many times, what we see is a very moving scene. Sometimes, okay, the suicidal youngster, we did it also with parents, breaks down in tears, melts down in tears. Sometimes they hug the supplicants together and they hug with the supplicants together. Sometimes it is not so, but something has happened. An important thing is we have never had a case of involving supplicants that finished with a clash. We've never had it. Now, another contribution of NVR, okay, specific contribution of NVR, and this we are different from, okay, I think all other approaches, is that during this suicidal crisis, we help the parents reduce accommodations. Accommodation are all of those services that the parents do, for instance, to an anxious adolescent, okay, protecting him from facing his anxieties, allowing him to stay at home, not to go to school, allowing him to lock himself, giving him internet. So all of those are accommodation. Okay, changing family interaction so it not increase anxiety, to leave him alone, okay, walking on the points of their feet. It's very important to reduce accommodation. Why? Because accommodation increases anxiety and depression, has been shown by many, many studies. Actually, accommodation, particularly in the long run, increases tremendously suicide risk. So we use the suicide crisis to help the parents stop accommodating at this time. Why? Because the parents are more willing to do it now and because they are supporters. So a very important part of the NVR intervention with suicidal kids is to reduce accommodation, damaging service. If the parents miss the opportunity of this crisis to reduce accommodation, afterwards it will be much more difficult to do so. There is a moment of readiness. Sometimes we use an interlude if the child is hospitalized, or in time spends a time in the grandparents' house to reorganize the house, reorganize the family, to reduce accommodation, to change the conditions of the room. The child is then told, when you get back home, it will be different. And the supporters tell him so. We are utilizing this interlude to prepare the house and the parents to reduce accommodation. Supporters legitimize this process of the accommodation, and thereby we reduce anxiety and risk. By the way, okay, Eli Leibovich has done a lot of research in the reduction of accommodation by means of our approach, NVR, in the field of anxiety, calls this the SPACE method, but it's NVR. Okay. Accommodation is reduced and the relationship between parents and child improves. It doesn't deteriorate. On the contrary, the clashes are reduced. Why? Because of the special tools of NVR in reducing clashes, reducing escalation. Then another very important, highly important contribution of NVR is that NVR continuously conveys the message: we see you, we think about you, we have our ear to the ground, we are nearby. Okay, this is the core of what he called vigilant care. Okay, vigilant care is the parental mental presence, this accompaniment to a child who is at risk for something. And we know, we have shown, enormous research shows that this attitude of parent reduces risk behaviors of all kinds. In suicide, it has also a special meaning. It, of course, reduces the risk of suicide. It has a special meaning because we see you is a kind of counterweight to the wish to disappear. The child wants to disappear. Now we see you, we are close by. Supporters tell the child, we see you, we know you, we remember all those things about you. This is also, we remember. Okay, we create an album of stories and memories and things with the supporters. They include photos of events with the child. They come to the suicidal child, adolescent, and tell them, yeah, I remember what you did that, how you helped my son, how you helped your aunt to do that, how you solved this problem. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It will stay, you will stay in my mind forever. We're creating time, perspective. In 20 years' time, I will remember how you did this. I will remember many other things about you. So we are creating time perspective. We see you. We remember you, and we see ourselves as remembering you. And now what happens is that the youth can recognize him or herself in the eyes of these supporters. He sees this, I see you in this way. I remember you in this way. And this enlarges this adolescent's, this kid's view of himself. Okay? We have the palette of NVR tools for suicide prevention is very large indeed. And we have letter to the police or an emergency service. Okay, this is a way in which involve external supporters. Look, this is a letter to the police. The wife family is in my treatment since the beginning of the year because of the dangerous behaviors of their son Kim. I'm giving this letter to his parents to show it to the officer or profession that is called in if they feel they or Kim are in danger. This is a child who's also both violent and self-risk. The parents have never been violent against Kim. Important to say this. On the contrary, they're loving and devoted parents, if we have checked it is so, who would do all in their power to protect their child. In case the parents ask for your help because they feel that Kim is in danger of committing suicide, I ask you to take their request seriously. And if the situation does not clear up, to take Kim to a medical emergency facility or evaluation. Okay? This is an instrument, a tool that I think only in NVR we have developed it. And it strengthened the parents enormously. And they sometimes use it. Supporters, not the parents, tell the child that there is such a letter. This is very important, that the child knows that there is. Okay, I'll be stopping now. Okay, we are already at the end of your time. Okay, what I want to stress is that the palette of interventions, the tools, the number, the breadth of tools that we have at NVR to dealing with suicide crisis is very, very broad indeed. And one of the things that we witness in cases of suicide when we talk to therapists, to families, is how usually they have the feeling that they have less and less and less interventions. So that's the reason we think that NVR and the parental anchoring function can be such a crucial element in the prevention of teen suicide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Haim. It was really interesting and impressing. Enjoy your birthday and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Bye.